The Fan welcomes some great shows in Mystic Lake Amphitheater. Leonard Skinner and Foreigner will be there August 16th. Motley Crue August 21st. You can get complete details on all of our upcoming shows on the concert page, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
We're back, 10:01, hour number 2 in the zone on a Wednesday. Trent Tucker, Dave Sinekin, and Brett Blakemore hanging out till noon today. Common man Dan Cole to follow, as usual. The Cleveland Browns have a new head coach, Double T. His name is Todd Monken, the former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator.
Okay.
And a guy who also held that job in Cleveland back in 2019. So he's returning to Cleveland to take over that mess of a franchise. Interesting to me that they're going with an offensive-minded coach to see if he can figure out if Shadur, the Pro Bowl quarterback, Shadur Sanders,
How about that?
is the future, or if they go back to the well for the 73rd time in the last 5 years at quarterback. That, of all the jobs open, that had to be the least attractive, right? Just because of what a dumpster fire that organization has been.
I mean, how many opportunities do you get to become a head coach in the NFL?
I understand that. And you got maybe the best player in the NFL, at least the best defensive player on your team in Myles Garrett. But it's very difficult to have sustained success in that organization, whether it's ownership, front office, whatever it might be. It's just been a tough deal.
But I mean, if you inspire to be a head coach in the National Football League and someone calls your name and say, "Hey, we have an opportunity here," if you're willing to take it,
you're not going to say no.
Not going to say no. I mean, now if you are a guy who's been around the NFL for a long time and you've had some success in other places as a head coach, you may say, "No, I'm going to take my time to see if something else comes up that might look better." But if you're a new guy and you're trying to break into the ranks of the NFL as the head coach, and someone knocks on your door, for sure, I would have to believe that you're gonna step into that situation.
Yeah, you don't say no. I get that, but it's it just feels like
somewhere.
In 3 years we're going to say, all right, now where is Todd Monken going to go as an offensive coordinator once he gets fired by Cleveland?
We got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And he just might be the guy.
Never know.
Yeah.
Adam Schefter just tweeted that the Philadelphia Eagles are bringing back Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion for a second interview for their offensive coordinator job. We touched on this yesterday. Dude was the Vikings backup quarterback 2 years ago. And after 2 years as the quarterback coach at actually at Green Bay, I think the first year, that even wasn't his title because I think Tom Clement was still there. I think he was the quarterback coach this past season. But just 2 years as kind of a low-level NFL assistant, he might take over Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown and company and lead an organization that has full expectations to compete for Super Bowls. I just find that fascinating that they might take a swing at a guy who not only has never called plays in the NFL, he was playing 2 years ago as a backup. That's a meteoric rise for a young guy in Sean Mannion. Good for him.
Right. He may have some ideas and how he view things from just recently leaving the game compared to the guys who have never been in the game.
He must interview really well. You're right. He must have a clear-cut path for Philly. Like, I know you guys were a dumpster fire offensively. This is what I would do if I took over this offense.
And maybe he could sit down and have and build a really good relationship with his quarterback and Jalen Hurts and see how things go from there. They could very quickly get on the same page, and they might see the same things here or there. But whomever takes that job as the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, it's going to be a tough situation for them. Because if this offense can't move the ball down the field, especially with the pass, you're gonna have the criticism coming from the media and coming from the fans. So you're gonna have to be very tough-minded to step into that situation and be the OC, for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I just find it interesting. Like if you told me that, Todd Monken just took the job in Cleveland and he's going to bring Sean Mannion to be his offensive coordinator, I could say, all right, I can see that. A team that's kind of rebuilding and they're going to go with a young guy, see what he's got. But for a team like Philly, with the expectations and the playoff history, just surprising to me that they're not going for a more established successful, not necessarily a guy who's been an OC before, but someone that's been coaching for longer than 17 minutes. It's just interesting. And again, they haven't hired him, but it's a really, I think it would be a courageous, interesting hire.
So he's going back for his second interview?
Yeah.
He's being considered for sure. If you go back for a second time, and they either heard something or they've seen something or somebody has let them know that this could be your guy.
How interesting is it that Mike McCarthy got a third shot at 62 to be a head coach. B, that he's doing it in his hometown. I don't know if you saw any of his press conference. He couldn't get through his press conference. He was so emotional about coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team he grew up loving and cheering for. And after all these years, think about it. The three teams, the three franchises he will have coached in his career are the Packers, the Cowboys, and the Steelers. Those are three of the
not too bad, huh?
Three of the legendary franchises. And then you throw in that
Aaron Rodgers is coming back.
He might have Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback again. McCarthy and Rodgers back together again.
Who would have thought, right?
Brett Blakemore, is that something you'd be able to watch if
it'd be tough
if Rodgers and McCarthy are together once again? We'll have Green Bay East in Pittsburgh with McCarthy and Rodgers. We'll have Green Bay South in Miami with the GM, John Eric Sullivan, the head coach, Jeff Hafley, and likely Malik Willis, I think, as quarterback down there. I have a feeling that might end up happening.
Everyone's just taking our stuff. We can't have anything nice.
Why is that?
Must be doing something right.
You steal from the best. It's kind of like all those years. The Vikings always ended up with a few Packers, right, that would come across the river and play for Minnesota over the years. So, interesting to see McCarthy back in the game. And if he and Rodgers are together, that's going to be a fun story. And we'll, I'm sure, get plenty more Rodgers in prime time for one more go. I still am not going to rule out that he wraps it up and calls it a day. But the fact that he could play for a team that he liked playing for and a coach that he certainly, they had their ups and downs, but they won a Super Bowl together against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I should add. That'll be interesting. I just saw this tweet come up during the break, Double T, and we're going to talk a lot about NBA trade deadline and what the Wolves might do and other players that might be on the move. One of the names we're going to hear a lot about over the next week and a half is our guy, Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay.
The Knicks closed out a win without Cat for the second time in 4 days, writes Jared Schwartz of the New York Post. On Saturday against Philly, it was because he fouled out. But in Tuesday's win over Sacramento, Mike Brown made the decision to keep Towns on the bench for the final 6:51 and let Mitchell Robinson finish the game at center. The strategy worked as New York turned a 4-point lead into a 16-point win with Towns on the bench. Trade rumors have begun to emerge regarding Towns, whose offensive numbers have declined sharply in his first year under Mike Brown. He's had a team worst -3 rating recently. We've talked a little bit about some of the lack of effort defensively that's caught the coach's eye that doesn't sit well with Mike Brown. Man, the bloom is off the rose for Cat in New York. It didn't take long. Do you think it's possible that's a big contract? He was so polarizing here. I mean, there certainly, I think as a human being, it's hard not to love Karl Anthony Towns, his loyalty to this market, his love for this market, a guy that would have been just very happy to start here and end here. We don't get a lot of those players. Yeah. So he's always going to have a soft spot, I think, with Wolves fans. But I think there was plenty of fans that looked at his game and said, there's just something missing. Like, does he have the killer instinct? Does he have the ability to be a defensive force? No, but can he at least try? We saw some great moments. We saw some head-scratching moments. And I think the Knicks, after 2 years, have said, yeah, I think we know what he is. And at $60-some million a year, I don't know that that's a guy we want to, have leading our charge right now.
Well, the one thing I would say from looking in from the outside, a year ago, we didn't have this conversation. And they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. And your best offensive player did not have his best game and a chance to advance his team in Jalen Brunson. Mike Brown's teams over the years have not really been known to be good defensive teams. So Mike Brown has been to a lot of different places. He was in Sacramento, he had a lot of offensive talent, but they couldn't get past the first round. And so I understand that somebody is going to have to be the fall guy when things are not going well. But if the Knicks are looking to trade Karl Anthony Towns and they don't get a similar type player offensively like Karl Anthony Towns, how far can they go in the Eastern Conference? And where would you trade him to? Where can you trade him to? That becomes another big question. So what do you want in return? Karl Anthony Towns is a talent. Was he an All-Star last year?
I believe so.
Was he an all-time? Was he a All NBA player a year ago?
The way you're asking me, I'm going to say yes. I don't remember.
Probably second or third team, maybe.
Was he?
Okay. So what do you want in return for that talent? You're going to want something significant maybe in return for that talent because you just don't want to give him away. And who is a willing partner willing to tear up their team for Karl Anthony Towns?
Well, one team comes to mind immediately for me. And, it's because Giannis has said in the past that he'd love to play for the Knicks. He'd love to play in New York. And there have been conversations between the teams. Mm-hmm. But the Knicks have no draft capital. And if Milwaukee's going to unload Giannis, which I think is going to happen, probably later rather than sooner because of the injury now that's going to knock him out for 4 to 6 weeks, it's going to be tough to trade him before the trade deadline, I would think. But that seems like if Milwaukee's looking for a package for Giannis and Cat is one of the centerpieces along with a whole bunch of draft capital, I could see Milwaukee saying, they just signed Miles Turner. I don't know if that's a great fit, having Cat and Miles Turner together, but if you're unloading Cat, that's a $60 million contract. You've got to bring back similar numbers in dollars.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily be excited about Cat playing in Milwaukee. I'd rather see Milwaukee get a bunch of young guys along with draft picks. But I'm just thinking I know there's interest from Giannis to go to New York, and the only way New York gets Giannis is if Cat moves out. And that's what I heard Brian Windhorst talking on ESPN the other night. At this time a year ago, like 10 days out before the trade deadline, there had already been 25 trades made in the NBA by this time. Mm-hmm. There's been one this year.
Yeah.
And he says it's all about Giannis. Like teams are waiting and holding their cards closely just to see if they might be in on something with Giannis. They don't want to make trades that are going to take them out of that potential sweepstakes. Okay. But Milwaukee's been so hesitant to do it. They're looking to still add players to try to keep this relationship together. It just feels like, for me as a longtime Bucks fan growing up, it's like that relationship where it's over with the girl, but you just don't have the heart to say it's over. There have been so many great times, and it's hard to admit it's finally over. I feel like the Bucks front office is that way with Giannis. Like it's time. They are not going to compete for a title with the roster right now built around Giannis. And when Damian Lillard got hurt, it all blew up, and that's where it ended.
Well, I mean, and if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, what are we going to get in return for Giannis? And I'm going to say this just from my basketball thought process. I don't think Giannis is a good fit for the New York Knicks. It's because the system in New York doesn't work for Giannis.
Explain.
Jalen Brunson has the ball 85% of the time.
But don't we feel like Giannis shouldn't have the ball in his hands that much?
Well, but Mike Brown doesn't run an offense that's going to feature a big guy playing with his back to the basket. Giannis is a guy that wants the ball in his hands. So what's going to give here? I believe that Giannis is a unique talent, but his success in Milwaukee was because Giannis controlled the basketball. He goes to New York. Jalen Brunson can't play off the ball. So now you to me, I think you have a bad mix. I just don't know, looking at some of the other teams that might be looking at Giannis, I just don't know where he can go to and put a collection of really good players around him to allow him to be the player that he is.
I got a place.
Where?
Houston.
But they're going to have, but Kevin Durant has the ball. I mean, if Giannis played like...
I think KD and Giannis could play very well.
If Giannis played more like a Karl Malone or Tim Duncan, it could work. Giannis is a guy that wants to bring the ball up the floor. He wants to run the offense. He wants to be the leading attack guy on the offensive end. And to do that, the ball needs to be in your hands more times than not.
And they don't have a point guard. With Van Vliet out this year, they don't really have a point guard.
But Giannis is not a point guard. He just wants to ball.
But he likes to initiate the offense, and they don't really have a natural guy to do that outside of KD.
That's why he was good in Milwaukee, is because when he had the ball in his hands, he didn't have to worry about somebody else dominating the basketball as well. Milton played off of Giannis. And then the night they won the NBA championship, Giannis decided that, hey, the best thing for me to do is let somebody else dribble and me go down low and punish the Phoenix Suns for 50 points. And that's what he was able to do. I would love to see him play more like that.
Yeah.
But that's not his game. That's not his mindset.
But maybe it will be. With all these injuries to his calf, he's starting to break down a little bit. Maybe he's going to realize, I'm going to have to just play a little differently now in my 30s.
But he has never developed that game. It's hard to flip that mindset because Giannis came into the league being a dominant player as what we can call a point forward or a point center. I just don't know if he would be a really good fit, for the New York Knicks, is because he's not a pick and pop guy.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns is the pick and pop guy. Now, whether he and Mike Brown can coexist, maybe that's the problem in New York. But I just don't know if Giannis would be the right fit with Jalen Brunson.
We'll see if he is indeed on the move, if there is a team willing to bring him aboard, maybe a have-not like a Sacramento or something like that, just decides we're starting over, he'll be our centerpiece. What about the Wolves? We'll chat when we come back, what Tim Connolly and company might be looking at, what might make sense, what should the Wolves do. We'll dive into all that and continue to take your Ask the Professor questions. The professor of hoopology and puckology is here for you. 64686, that's the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Questions flying in. We'll get to as many as we can. We love more. Tweet me at TC Head Cheese. But let's come back and talk Wolves and trade deadline in the zone on the Fan.
Before we go, the Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks, the national cash contest at KFAN.com. The keyword is friend this hour. Keyword friend at KFAN.com. Keyword friend. Box is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. 10 keywords. Learn more at KFAN.com.
We're back, 10:22. It's a Wednesday edition of In the Zone on the Fan. There are a few things that get me more amped up than a Shams bomb that drops during In the Zone. We don't get a lot of news on Saturday mornings typically, or a Woj bomb back in the day when he was covering the NBA beat, but we just got a Shams bomb that's rather relevant to our conversation from about 7 minutes ago. This 2 minutes ago from Shams Charania, who, of course, covers the NBA. Two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is ready for a new home at the February 5th NBA trade deadline or in the offseason, as several rival teams make aggressive offers to the Milwaukee Bucks for him, and the franchise is starting to listen, league sources tell ESPN. As you may recall, I said that they should have made a deal last summer. Once Damian got hurt and we knew it was over, that was the time, preferably before the draft. Although let's just pull the Band-Aid off and let's just move on. And they just stuck their heels in and said, no, he's our guy. I mean, this is a guy. It would be very difficult to replace Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the greatest Buck in Milwaukee history, even though he only played there 5 or 6 years. He was an instant MVP and won a championship, but then he wanted out of Milwaukee. He wanted the big lights, and he got traded to L.A. for a whole bunch of players. So the love for Kareem, we appreciated him for putting the Bucks on the map.
It's not the same.
No, it's not the same. Giannis has been in Milwaukee for 13 years. He's the most beloved sports figure, maybe in that city's history. I grew up there. I'm trying to think top of my head. I don't think it's a stretch to say that. I think he's the most beloved athlete in Milwaukee sports history.
Robin Yount.
Well, he's in the conversation. Yeah. He didn't win a championship.
He's a friend of mine, so that's what I said.
You and Robin have a good vibe. You've mentioned that a couple times. That always surprises me when you bring that up. So it's always difficult, like the KG time, it's so difficult to part with a guy that embodies your organization. And for a guy, who, born in Africa, grew up in Athens, comes to Milwaukee and decides, I love this place, and was very much a community member and loved everything about, and was very giving of his time. So it's hard to let that guy go. But it was clear that this is not going to be a competitive team this season with the roster. Even if you bring in a Miles Turner, that's your signature move. Come on, who are we kidding? Even in a year where the East was going to be completely wide open with the injuries to Tatum and Halliburton, it just opened the door for any team, and Detroit has taken that opportunity and run with it as they're running away with the East right now. But according to this tweet, it's over. Like, a deal will be made. And I find it difficult to believe that a deal will be done before the trade deadline. We're talking 8 days. For a monumental, consequential deal like this with a guy who we know is going to be out for at least a month with a calf injury. Now, that might not scare teams off, and they might come up with a compelling deal and make a move, but it feels to me like this one's going to need some time to breathe. It might end up being a 3-4 team deal, because what Milwaukee needs is draft picks. They have 0. They have this year's.
Well, they're going to have to rebuild.
Correct. You have to start over.
Yeah.
But I mentioned Houston in the last segment as a team I think has the combination of young players. They are competitive right now. Yes, they brought in KD to put them over the top, but I don't know that they're playing at a level that you consider Houston right now to be in the same wavelength as OKC or Denver or maybe even San Antonio. If I'm Milwaukee and I can get Sengun in a deal, that to me is about as good a young player as Milwaukee can hope for. An all-star, what is he, 23, 24?
But does he make it? But he's not in the
salary-wise?
Yeah, upper echelon of
Yeah, I don't know. But I think
salaries.
They've got, throw Fred VanVleet in the deal. They've probably got guys they can get to the salary. They've got a couple young players, I think, like Reed Shepherd, that might get Milwaukee excited. They've got picks. I'm just going to say, I will not at all be surprised if Houston's the team that feels like,
yeah, you could be right.
We're still not there. I don't think, like the Spurs have a lot of young talent too, but they're playing so well. Why break that up?
Well,
right
they play
now?
well without Wemby as well.
And Wemby and Giannis together, is that something that even would work for you?
I think Giannis's game is so unique in how he plays and how he wants to play. I'm just trying to figure out.
The Lakers are going to want him, right?
Who can vie with him?
Yeah. Chris play with Luka.
Chris Middleton was the right player for him because Chris Middleton didn't need the ball. He played off of Giannis. Then they picked up Drew Holiday. So Milwaukee had the right pieces that could play off of Giannis. Teaming him up with another star that demands the basketball as much as he does, that's my concern.
All right, so name me a star that doesn't command the basketball like Giannis.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know where they can trade him to.
Well, I just think they're going to trade him. He's going to move. So one team is going to believe they can make it work.
Can you send him what does Phoenix have to offer?
Phoenix?
Yeah. I could see him playing with Devin Booker.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head what would get Milwaukee excited.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what Phoenix has. I could see him playing with Devin Booker. Because Devin Booker, he doesn't have to dribble the ball a whole lot to make his offense work. He can get his shots up for 1 or 2 bounces. So I'm just trying to figure out,
I just don't think teams are going to look at it exactly. I'm not saying you're wrong. It probably is the way they should look at it.
Well,
I think most teams are going to look at, we have a chance to bring in
Giannis,
one of the top 20 players of all time.
But what is it going to cost us to get him? Mm-hmm. And so are we going to be the Milwaukee of the West? Because if we have to give up so much to get Giannis, now we have nothing to go alongside of him. Well, then we're going to be no better than the Milwaukee Bucks.
Right, but I do think there are a few teams that are stacked enough where they could give up some young talent and still have plenty as a core to compete for a title.
And what team? And you think it's Houston?
I do. I think Houston makes the most sense.
Okay,
but from a Bucks standpoint of all right, look at some of the components. Now, again, I'm not thinking bigger where you're going to weave in 2 other teams and there's other players and now there's. Yeah. Milwaukee's got picks. That they sent to New Orleans in the holiday deal that they'd love to get back, and maybe there's a way to get some of their picks back in a trade because they have to
probably take multiple teams like you said. But I just look at when you have a talent like Giannis, you got to put the right pieces around him that fit.
Because you've got about a 3-year window now, right? What is he, 32?
Yeah. And
Brad, look it up. Look up how old Giannis is, would you?
And I know how he likes to play. He wants the ball in his hands. And you can't have another guy that plays just like him.
He's 31.
He's only 31. I just wonder if he could be talked into playing a little differently, to being the force he can be down low as you enter into your 30s. And it's look, the last few years in the playoffs, he's not been available all the time. Like, he gets hurt a lot, and it tends to happen at the worst possible times.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to lessen the load on your body by not being the guy that's bringing the ball up, that's initiating the offense. He's such a dominant, he's a great defensive player, but he's such a dominant offensive player down low. I just think if somebody could get into his head and say, back into your career, let us do the heavy lifting. We're going to get you the ball down low where you are unstoppable.
He would be a great fit for Devin Booker.
Yeah.
But they could play inside out. They can play a 2-man game. If he's willing to, all the things you're talking about, if he's willing to go and change and play and adjust to that style, him and Devin Booker would be a great 1-2 combination.
Interesting. I have to look at their roster and
I don't know what they have to offer.
Yeah.
But Jalen Brunson is a guy that doesn't play inside out. Jalen Brunson is a one-on-one player. He pounds the basketball.
So send Brunson to Milwaukee. Here we go. Now we're talking.
Well, you have Cat and Giannis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Play them together.
Yeah. That might work. I don't think the Knicks would do that because Jalen Brunson's father is still on the bench.
That's correct. They have a thing or two to say about that. This will be a dominant story in NBA circles now between now and the trade deadline. And if nothing happens, it'll be all people talk about. We were just saying, like, a lot of teams are waiting to see when the shoe drops with Giannis. And with this report, finally, it's interesting that he's hurt now, though. It's just a weird dynamic that, okay, great, you have Giannis. He's out, and he's had a pesky calf now for a couple years. Better be careful.
So would you take Giannis on the Wolves?
Of course I would take Giannis on the Wolves.
So that means you're going to have to give up a lot.
You're going to probably have to give up Jaden McDaniels, I would think. And that's the question. Would you give up Jaden McDaniels? Again, Milwaukee wants draft picks. We don't have them.
Yeah, so you have to give another player. Can you get man to give another player?
Well, it's going to cost you more than Jaden McDaniels
there you
to
go.
get Giannis.
Right.
It's going to cost you a whole lot.
So,
yeah, let's craft. Well, let me work on that during the break. I mean, is it like Randall and McDaniels? I mean, is it two of your top four
it
guys?
may have to be.
So if you're left with, Ant, Giannis, Naz as your kind of big three scorers, with with Dante kind of hanging out there in the backcourt with and the defense, you don't lose a lot of defense giving up Jaden for. I mean, the only guy I would consider moving Jaden for would be a guy like Giannis. That's not a guy I'm looking to move, but I think that, if Milwaukee's looking for some talent back, that's a young, rising player that might make sense for them. Could you imagine Giannis here with Ant? How does that work for you?
And if Giannis was willing to, like you said, make some adjustments and changes, I mean, that could be a good fit because it would free up Rudy Gobert on the opposite side of the basket, outside of the basket now, to get in better position, offensive rebound, because eventually his man would have to leave to come over and double team. I mean, but the question is, what are you willing to give up to get Giannis? If you're a good basketball team right now, what are you willing to give up to get him? Because if you don't have the other pieces to go around him, if you make a trade for a talent like that, or the right pieces, all of a sudden now you become the Milwaukee Bucks. And dude, you want to become a good team that turns yourself into the Milwaukee Bucks with no opportunity to win.
Yeah, that's a non-starter, I would think, for most teams. You got me dreaming now because we saw Naz playing the 3 the other night and looking pretty comfortable playing the 3. Gobert, Giannis, Naz, Ant, and Dante as their starting 5.
Still got to find point guard somewhere.
Well, I understand that. That's another day, a conversation for another day. A guy can dream. I mean, again, I love Jaden, and I'm certainly a fan of Julius. But if you have a chance,
Giannis, if that deal was on the table, you would just say, hypothetically, if that deal was on the table, you would take it.
Yes, I think I would.
Okay,
would you?
I probably would too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the tantalizing idea of watching Giannis play.
Because
with
I'm not. I'm not giving up perhaps my best player and another very good player. I know I have to give up something maybe to get better, but I'm not tearing my team so much apart where we can't compete. And if I was in the situation as a GM, that would be my major concern. Are we good today as we are? Do we need to get better? Yes. But if I make this major trade, what kind of team will I have tomorrow?
And if you're wondering about the financial commitment to Giannis, here's his deal. He's eligible on October 1st for a new 4-year, $275 million deal. He'll be a free agent in 27. He has a player option next season for 62.8. So any team that's making a deal like this has to make sure they're signing Giannis for another deal. Mm-hmm. That it's not like he's going to test the water, see how he likes it here, and then in a year he might be gone.
Right.
You have to have the understanding that, A, you're going to commit to a 4-year, $275 with him, which I would think any team that wants Giannis would do.
That's cheap today, right?
I don't think it's cheap.
Yeah, but that's when you got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown making over 300.
Yeah, that's still over almost 70 a year. It's almost $1 million a game. That's not a bad. You were born 30 years too early.
That's true.
At least 30, maybe 40 actually. Not to age you too much. Let's pause here.
Almost about 40 plus.
We're backed up on some Ask the Professor questions, but keep them coming. I got some interesting ones I want to dive into as we dream about Giannis wearing those Prince-colored Wolves colors. I could just see it. Is 34 available? I believe it is. Interesting news. That'll be a big talker, to say the least, over the next week or so in the NBA. We'll pause here. In the Zone returns after these.
If you want to try to know what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can. You can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard text message and data rate supply.
We're back at 10:42. Been a lot of NFL coaching news this morning. The Browns hired their coach, Todd Monken, the former Ravens offensive coordinator. Brett Blakemore, I don't know if you've seen this. Our guy Tom Pelissero just tweeted this out 3 minutes ago. The Packers are hiring Bobby Babich as their defensive pass game coordinator, secondary coach. He was the defensive coordinator for the Bills most recently. He's been with the Bills since 2017, been their DC the last 2 years. So a key hire for Jonathan Gannon's staff as the new defensive coordinator in Green Bay. They bring in another DC in Bobby Babich to run the secondary. I like that. That's two prominent, successful defensive coordinators in this league joining the Packers staff. I'm in.
It sounds like they're going the more experienced, well-known guys instead of taking a shot at someone young. I'm okay with it. I would say I'm whelmed. I'm not in the elite Bobby Babich mind, but I'm whelmed. I'm fine.
I'm not either. But you got a couple guys that have been successful defensive coordinators leading your staff. I'm in. Double T, let's catch up on some of our Ask the Professor questions that have come in. This one caught my eye earlier. 763 guy. Question for my guy Trent. This is Keith. I was at your first camp in River Falls, and I played Dr. J one-on-one. I'm sorry that embarrassed him with that blow-by layup. Hopefully you remember that. Do you remember a guy named Keith blowing by Dr. J in River Falls and kind of maybe embarrassing the great one?
Well, I'm gonna take a lawyer's turn. I can't recall.
Okay, that's probably smart. He also asked what your cousin Craig is doing now, and why do you think he never made it to an NBA team back then? He said, I thought he had a nice game.
My cousin Craig, I've been asked, the question by a lot of people, who was my toughest rival in high school? He was.
This is a first cousin?
Michigan. My first cousin, yeah.
Okay.
And Craig was a very talented basketball player, and a lot of people may not know the story. He and I was drafted to the New York Knicks in the same year.
Was he at Tucker?
Was he at Tucker, yeah.
Okay.
Our fathers were brothers. And
what round did he go?
He went in, I think, the late third round. And the only reason why Craig could never crack that next level, it wasn't because of talent. is because of some of the decisions he made off the court. But also it was even more difficult other than that because during that time when he got drafted to the Knicks, we already had 12 guaranteed contracts. And during those days, owners was not willing to eat a contract. Whether the guy was playing well or not, they were just going to suffer with that contract. They didn't want to pay guys to go home to do nothing. Like today, they will. They would do that in a heartbeat. But I just think maybe some decisions he made away from the game, kind of came back to haunt him. But in terms of a talented player, for sure, he had the talent to play at the NBA level. And he's been living in Las Vegas now for the last probably 30-some plus years, and he's doing very well.
Do you remember when the draft happened, connecting with him, going, oh, my God, we're going to the Knicks together? Like, did you guys...
June of 1982?
Did you head there together? I mean,
no, I didn't know because they only brought in the guys who was going in the first round. And all of a sudden, when as the day went on, he called me and said, hey, I got drafted to the Knicks as well. And I was like, great, fantastic. And I remember he and I was in training camp together. I was a holdout at that time.
Of course, you're a difficult person. Of course you were.
And because, that's what
was going on?
Draft picks players did back then. They were holdouts, right?
Is that what it was? Like, that was not unusual.
Because you were always waiting for the first guy to sign, and then you couldn't make a move until the guy ahead of you signed his contract. James Worthy being the number one pick in 82, everybody had to wait for him to see,
It's not slotted like it is now.
Yeah, everybody wait for him to see, how he was going to set the tone in terms of salaries.
Remind me the top 5, because you were number 6. Do you remember? Top of your head?
James Worthy, Dominique Wilkins, Terry Cummins.
Wow.
Bill Garnett, LaSalle Thompson, myself. Quinn Daly was 7. I think Cliff Livingston probably went 8, or Keith Emerson went 8. I think it was Cliff Livingston 8, maybe Antoine Carr and Keith Emerson.
Okay,
I think that was a top 10.
Pretty sweet top 3.
Stevie Floyd was in the top 14, and so. But then when I got to training camp, Craig was there, and I thought, for sure he had the talent to make the team. But when you have 12 guaranteed contracts and owners that in that day and time, they were not going to send a guy home, with a guaranteed contract and not play. They weren't going to do that.
Did he try to hook up with another team, or was it just kind of over for him?
It was it was by that time some of the the off court stuff had taken place, and when it was very hard in those days if you didn't make a team and you were a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. It was going to be very difficult for you to get another look.
How many rounds was the draft? 10 rounds.
Yeah.
How many teams at that time? 20 or
23.
so? 23.
Yeah.
So 230. I just did this math in my head, by the way.
Okay.
230 players were drafted. And that just seems like overkill. Like, that anybody after that. Do you recall, and this is a tough question, did anybody from that year that was drafted back half of that draft, rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, anybody of those guys stick?
The only guy I knew a year later was a guy named Sedale Threet.
Oh, yeah.
He was a 6th round draft pick by the Philadelphia 76ers, and he made the team.
He had a nice little career.
He did have a really good career. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But in terms of his ability to handle the ball and play and speed and quickness, and I would say this, the only other guy at that time that I saw that could handle the ball as well as him was your guy from IU, Isaiah Thomas.
Really?
He had those types of ball handling skills.
Where did he play his college ball?
The University of Illinois. He played with Derek Harper. In the back. He went to Coffeyville Junior College for 2 years, and then he went to play at Illinois his junior and senior year. He was a backcourt mate of Derek Harper.
That's a shame. Yeah, just a shame that maybe some of the off-court demons caught up to him and cost him an opportunity.
But now he's doing well. He's been living in Las Vegas for 30 plus years, and he enjoys it a great deal.
Sweet.
Yeah.
651 texter. My first introduction to Trent was watching the Wolves in the late 90s when he was a commentator alongside Kevin Harlan. Of course, Kevin has gone on to be one of the most recognizable voices in broadcasting. Does Trent have any stories about Kevin? He just seems like a very nice and genuine person. And If you're of a certain age and you remember those days with you and Kevin Harlan calling the games, that was a very memorable pairing. And I'd like to think that us starting the show in the zone a few years before kind of got your broadcast career going to give you that opportunity.
Working with Kevin Harlan was absolutely the best. Breaking into a whole new profession. And I knew what I wanted to say. I knew the game very well, but how could I bring what I knew to a different audience in a different setting? And having someone like Kevin Harlan, to learn from and to work with allowed me to do that. It's because when you're a shooter and you got a setup guy like Kevin Harlan, he's second to none. And we built a really good relationship and we were able to vibe. And many people thought that he and I spent a great deal of time off the air together. I only saw Kevin Harlan on game day. That's the only time I ever saw him.
Really? Because he would fly right back home to
he'd go back to Kansas City. And he would come back. I can remember one night this when the Sonics, when the Oklahoma City Thunder were in Seattle. And we were about to get ready for a game. And I knew he was flying in the day of the game. His plane was late getting in from Kansas City, and it was 15 minutes before the game started. And everybody said, "Where's Kevin?" Yeah, oh no, he's gonna make it. And all of a sudden, I see him coming through the door, and he comes in. He says, "T, what do you want to talk about?" I said, "I just follow your lead, man." And all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, he said, "Hey, this is Kevin Harlan." But we just had a unique vibe that worked. We connected very well. But he was so good to work with because he was able to bring out in me what I knew about basketball so I could pass that on to the audience that was listening. And so that any success I had during that time was contributed to Kevin Harlan.
And I think we all knew, hearing you guys, that Kevin was going to be given an opportunity for bigger things. Yeah. Just like when we heard Michael Grady first start here, it was like, well, this guy's unbelievable. Like, he's going to, let's enjoy him while we have him because, and certainly he has been found and he's getting that opportunity and great for him. I've noticed lately, I've gotten into this habit of teasing something I want to talk about and then just forgetting because I get off onto another thing like the Giannis thing coming up. Because I did say a while ago, let's talk about what the Wolves might be looking to do with the trade deadline. Yeah. And several texters have funny. We thought we were going to go in that route. Now we're talking Bucks basketball for 20 minutes. So I do want to, and we've talked about this on Saturdays as well. Mm-hmm. The trade deadline's 8 days away. We've been talking about it for the last half hour with the Giannis news. I think the general feeling is there's not going to be any monumental moves made by Tim Connolly and company, but I think we'd all be surprised if he sits still with this roster. January got off to a great start, 6-1. I remember telling you, this team is set. The chemistry, it's there. Let's just go. And then the last couple of weeks happened where they just look lifeless and don't look like the team we know and like they need to be shaken up somehow, whether it's a marginal move to bring another player in or something bigger. You have made it very clear. The point guard position needs to be addressed. I think we all know that. I don't know if that can be addressed now necessarily. I mean, money comes into all these things. It's going to be difficult for them to bring in more salary than they send out.
Yet?
It's funny. My son Jackson mentioned that last night, that he'd love to see the Wolves get Drew Holiday. He's in Portland, I believe.
He makes a lot of money, right?
Yeah, he makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he's, 35? Not that he doesn't have a couple years left in him, but from a basketball standpoint, you like the idea of what Drew Holiday could inject on this team because he's got the championship medal, but he's also the kind of guy that would work really well with that.
Well, also, you allowed what you and I talked about this past Saturday about who could be that guy that could give you that spark off the bench like Nickeil Alexander-Walker did a year ago. Now it would put DiVincenzo back in that situation, and I think he would be the perfect guy to play that role.
I'll look during the break at what his salary is and how many years left, and I would think he'd be available, right? I mean, there's no reason for Portland to hang on to a guy of that age as they're resetting their roster, and they've got some nice young pieces there. I'm sure they'd be open to moving him. I'm stuck on Malik Monk as a player that I would love to see. I've gotten one over that I look at this bench and I say, you just can't count on Nas being your only production offensively. And unfortunately, you can't count on Bones giving you 12 to 15 points night after night. That's not who he is. So he looked great the last game when Ant wasn't playing, but the previous 3 games, I think he scored 3 points. He just didn't have his shot. There's with Dante starting and with Shannon not playing because of the injury, there's just not enough oomph off the bench to help. And I just think come playoff time, as you always say, the rotations are shortened to probably 7 guys, and they've got 6 right now. I mean, you can count on Jalen Clark. He's been a nice defensive player, and I still think there might be a role for him in the playoffs, but they need some offense. They need another guy to give them scoring. And maybe it's because Monk always kills the Wolves, it seems like.
Well, Monk is pretty much like DiVincenzo.
Yeah, similar.
But we need, but
you need 2 of those guys because I just think once.
But we need somebody that can run this team.
What about any of the Bulls between Kobe White, Trey Jones, and DeSumo? All those guys. I think Trey is signed beyond this year.
I probably would take Kobe White.
Other 2 guys are expiring.
Would you go with Kobe White?
I like Kobe. He's not a prototypical point guard necessarily.
Yeah.
But I love his game. He's a free agent after this season, and that's the sticky point. Like,
that's true.
What are you going to give up?
I would go to Portland and see if I could get Drew Holiday. I don't know what his salary is and what it may cost me, but he would be in he would be in the conversation in the room we have with the person.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
All right, let's pause here. Let's continue that conversation. I promise we will, and look at some other ways the Wolves might look to sort of on the edges find the magic potion to make this team look like we want it to look, if that's even possible. Hour number 3 in the Zone after these.